Heading into this college season, I did super in-depth profiles on 15 prospects in the 2025 WNBA Draft. So to encapsulate all of that, today I want to go through my preseason top 30 prospect rankings. Before we get into the list, I want to explain what the 2080 scale is, which is what I use to grade prospects. So for example, if I think a player's ceiling is a 60 grade all-star caliber player and their floor is a rotation caliber player, that means their median outcome would come out to a 50 grade. Also, one other key note is the order within the tiers isn't as important as the tiers themselves. Just because it is the preseason, this is a very fluid process. Things could change between now and the draft next spring. So to kick it off with the number one prospect, it's none other than Paige Bueckers, 5'11" point guard out of UConn. Paige is one of the most complete guard prospects ever. You talk about someone that is an awesome three-point shooter, one of the best mid-range scoring prospects ever, also one of the best finishers in a guard prospect ever. That's without even talking about her defensive growth. Paige made significant defensive growth last season, as well as her processing speed out of ball screen. Just there's not many players that see the floor better in basketball than Paige Bueckers. The two concerns that I have for Paige's prospects is, one, injuries. Just can she stay healthy? Two is just pull-up threes. Paige's biggest weakness as a prospect offensively in her college career has just been that she doesn't take that many pull-up threes. She's much more confident in the mid-range, but extending out to three, she's just not that willing of a pull-up three-point shooter. Took like less than one attempt per game on pull-up threes last season. That's my one concern for her offensively. And if she does that, we're talking about an 80-plus grade prospect, inner circle Hall of Fame. So like the Hall of Fame within the Hall of Fame, like one of the 10 best players of all time. Next, at number 2, I have Kiki Iriafen, 6'3" big, power forward / center out of USC. Iriafen, transfer from Stanford, is an awesome athlete, versatile defensive big with her coverage versatility, being able to defend in ball screens and isolation, on wings, on guards, just so switchable as far as her movement skills, her lateral mobility. Also an excellent driver. Good handle, so quick off the bounce as far as her first step, her balance at the rim as far as finishing. For Iriafen, the two questions I have for her is really defensively, can she take on more primary rim protection responsibilities, up that block number, and then also offensively, is there a chance that she can shoot from three? Iriafen is a good mid-range scorer. She made massive strides last season as a mid-range scorer. No player got better in college basketball last season, so I'm not ruling it out that Iriafen, playing in this pro-style system at USC, can become a shooter. The mechanics look good. They're nice one-motion release. It's possible she gets there, and if she does, we're talking about an even better prospect. 70 grade is what I'm talking about preseason, so all WNBA caliber. Next at number 3 is Janiah Barker, 6'4", power forward / center out of UCLA. To start with the shot creation, this is what makes Barker such an exceptional prospect for me. We've only seen this level of athleticism and fluidity as a ball handler in a handful of prospects ever among like 6'4", 6'5" players. It's kind of just Candace Parker, Brianna Stewart, Elena Deladon, and probably just Janiah Barker. Barker's bend that she gets to create space in the mid-range is nuts. She's already like marvelous at scoring in the mid-post and overall as an isolation scorer. For Barker, the athleticism, the defensive versatility, super strong, super mobile, awesome in the mid-range, can really finish when she's confident driving. That's one of my concerns for Barker, is getting more confident as a driver, because she is so strong, she is so athletic, she is so fluid. If she puts her mind to it, she can finish at will at any time in the game. So can she get more confident? Can she get better at making free throws? Can she really just take that superstar leap? Barker has the highest upside of any prospect outside of Paige Bueckers in this class because of her shot creation at 6'4". If she can put it all together this season, the conversation on who is the second best prospect could get interesting. It's also worth noting that Bueckers might not be in this draft. She is a junior. She's made it known previously whenever she was at A&M that her plans were to turn pro after her junior season. She'll be 22 in the 2025 calendar year, so she is eligible to declare for this draft. We'll see if she declares. It probably just depends on how this season goes, but there's not many more fun scorers to watch than Janiah Bueckers. And then at number 4, Olivia Miles, 5'10" point guard out of Notre Dame, the only prospect in the 55 grade tier, so a little bit of a drop off from Bueckers. For Miles to start, there's truly not many better passing prospects we've ever seen. The eye manipulation, the wraparound passes, the skip passes, the pocket passes, and she combines with her passing is the advantage creation. Being able to drive, collapse a defense, make passes out of that. The comparison I made in my Olivia Miles breakdown video was she reminds me of, from a median outcome standpoint, what Skylar Diggins-Smith did for Seattle this season. We're talking about a very solid defender, is an awesome passer, can create rim pressure. The shooting is like the major thing with those two players this season. Skylar was like sub 30%. Olivia Miles, can she shoot? I'm not too confident in the mechanics. I just don't really buy the mechanics. It kind of like sits on her shoulder. It's a really wonky release. Don't really buy it too much. But if she can make pull-up twos at a solid rate, that would be nice. It's not like she absolutely has to be this 35% shooter on volume to be a prospect. If she makes threes, we're talking about an all-star caliber median outcome. But right now, with the shooting, with the injuries coming back from that injury that kept her out all of last season, I think I'll stick with a 55 grade to enter this season. And then number 5 prospect for me in the 50 grade tier is Dominique Malonga, 6'6" center out of Asvel in France. She is the biggest boom or bust prospect in this class. High ceiling, low floor prospect because her movement skills, defensive versatility, rim running, potential to shoot at 6'6". You can't teach all of these combination of skills. There's not many prospects in WNBA history that can do what she does athletically. So for Malonga, having her here at number 5 is only because there's a chance her weaknesses are the hardest skills to improve on. Like, can her feel for the game improve? Can her hand-eye coordination improve enough? Because she drops more passes than I've seen from any big prospect in recent draft history. Her positioning and drop coverage, can she be someone that can defend and drop? Also, her help rotations aren't that great as well. I feel like with her, she can sometimes get out of position, but because she is the most athletic player on the court at all times, she can recover and make plays. But if we're talking about WNBA level, you're not going to be able to recover and make all these plays that she does against WNBA caliber centers. The French League has some good WNBA caliber talent, but not as much at the center position. It's probably the weakest position in this league, so she can win with her athleticism. Their skill here as far as her shot creation on like these mid-post fades, can she do that consistently? Can she make free throws? Can her three-point touch improve? Those are my questions. By the end of this season, we could have more clarity on if I think her floor is a little bit higher, because if her floor is higher, we're talking about a 60 grade prospect. Still though, having her here in the top of my 50 grade tier is because of the upside piece. Then to move to my number 6 prospect, another international player, and that is Aisha Sivka, 6'3" wing, playing for Tarbes in France. She is from Slovenia but played in Italy last season, now playing in France. For Sivka, the best way I can describe her game is just imagine Leonie Fibish. This is the archetype. There's not many of these Leonie Fibish type players in basketball. We're talking about 6'3", 6'4" off-ball wings that can defend, shoot, and are good athletes. Sivka does all of that stuff. She's not the same defender as Fibish as far as being able to defend 1s and 2s, but I think she can defend 3s, she can defend 4s. She's a good athlete, a good, solid defender, off-ball. Offensively, the mechanics on and off ball from 3 are so fluid. The power transfer, the shoulder stability, all of that stuff, the touch. For Sivka as well, there's not many better passers I've ever seen at her size from the wing position. The velocity she gets on these passes, the eye manipulation, the ability to make these offhand whip passes, pinpoint cutters with her offhand. She is right-handed, keep in mind. Doing some of these passes with her left hand, manipulating defenders with her eyes. It's special stuff. The reason she's behind Malunga is I think her ceiling is lower just because Sivka is not the athlete that Malunga is. Good athlete, solid athlete. Also, like for Sivka, can she get more confident drawing fouls, getting to the rim? That's the one thing for her. She did not take many free throw attempts at the U20s in her age group, so can she get more confident drawing fouls is one improvement area I'm going to continue to monitor. Moving to my number 7 prospect, Te-Hina Paopao, 5'9" combo guard out of South Carolina. There is not a more consistent shooter in college basketball than Te-Hina Paopao. She shot 40% from 3 in every single game for like her first 13 games of the season. A majority of the games, she was shooting 40% from 3. She is so consistent on and off ball. She is also a great playmaker in pick and roll. The ability to put defenders in jail, get them on her hip, and make floaters. I've just always been such a big fan of her pacing, her processing speed. The tempo she plays with is so veteran-like for a college player. The reason she is not higher is just because of upside. Paopao is not an above-average WNBA athlete. Maybe an average athlete, slightly below average athlete. As far as Paopao is not a good finisher at the college level, doesn't get all the way to the rim all that often, isn't this explosive vertical athlete. Also defensively, she has improved as an on-ball defender, but is still not like a plus on ball. She can be okay in that area. Still though, there is a reason I've mentioned Paopao as a dream pick for a bunch of teams in this year's draft. She is an archetype that every single team could use. There is not many players in the W that are good pick and roll processors, can play on and off ball and make threes as far as like doing both things. She does all of that. There's not many of those players in the W. Then moving to my number 8 prospect, someone that is very different than Te-Hina Paopao, Janiah Rivers, 6'1", combo guard / wing out of NC State. She plays the 1 for NC State and took them to the Final Four last season. She can play the 1 a little bit. That's another thing to consider with Rivers, is having that role versatility is super valuable. But for Rivers, she is the best wing defender in college basketball, and also one of the best 6-foot+ passers in the country as well. The defensive versatility, the passing, the transition operation, the finishing in transition. The reason she is not higher is similar to Malunga. She has the second biggest difference between like floor and ceiling in this draft besides Dom, and that is because the shooting is a massive question. How much do you buy the mechanics? I don't really buy the mechanics all that much. And then also, she is not a good finisher in the half court. Was like below 50%, 44%-ish last season. That is not going to cut it for the WNBA level. You need her to be this awesome slasher off ball, someone that can get to the rim and finish consistently to hit her high-end outcome as a player. Right now, we're talking about like a Jordan Horston type developmental arc is what I want to see from her. Horston was not a good finisher as a junior at Tennessee, but now in her second WNBA season in 2024, she was the best finishing wing in basketball. It's possible Rivers can get there. I'm much more confident in the finishing growth happening than the shooting growth, but at least one of those things will be key for her to be a rotation player or a valuable rotation player in this league. Then moving to Sonia Citron, 6'1" wing out of Notre Dame. She is just the ideal role player. When we talk about someone that can make spot-up threes, is a very steady passer, moves well off the ball with her cutting. She is a good defender, better off ball than on ball, but she's like solid on ball against wings. The reason she is not higher is just because, similar to Paopao, she's not an above-average WNBA athlete. Also is not the pull-up three-point shooter that you would ideally look for her to be. She doesn't have to be a pull-up three-point shooter, just like this off-ball wing, this utility wing is like what I'm talking about with Citron. There's not many of these players, my comp would be like Bridget Carlton. What Bridget did this season would be Citron's ceiling, which is like a 55 grade prospect. So I would say her ceiling is a 55 grade, like a Bridget Carlton. Her floor is like a 45. So like in contrary to like Rivers and Malunga, who have big gaps between floor and ceiling, Citron is just this steady player that is just a good basketball player that does a bunch of valuable things. Then dropping down to my 45 grade tier, Raven Johnson, 5'8" point guard out of South Carolina. I'll mention this every time I talk about Raven Johnson because it doesn't get any less insane. She is 5'8", but she has a 6'2.5" wingspan, a longer wingspan than Juju Watkins, in the same wingspan as Ryan Howard. She is a small guard, but with her physical tools, her athleticism, her strength, combined with her ball pressure, her reflexes, her lateral quickness, Raven Johnson is the best point of attack defender in college basketball. She's also a very good passer with her pick and roll operation, her handle, just makes good decisions on ball. Next steps for her as a prospect is to continue making strides with the mid-range jumper. The high release point makes it unblockable, but can she make spot-up threes, and also can she draw more fouls? Getting more confident offensively is what I'm looking for Johnson to do. Playing in this South Carolina system, it's easy for her to take a back seat because there's so much talent. I want to see her get more confident and just like go and just make plays offensively. Might make more mistakes, but just make mistakes. Like I think that's okay for that to happen. A couple player comps I have for Raven is Natasha Cloud and also an NBA comp, Marcus Smart. That's my comparison for Johnson entering this season. Super fun defender. There's not many players with her type of athletic profile, which makes her a top 10 prospect for me. Next at number 11, Anissa Morrow, 6'1" power forward out of LSU. Morrow is such a fascinating prospect because she is not a wing. The Rickea Jackson comps aren't good. Morrow can't shoot consistently to be that off-ball player that Rickea can from three. Also, Morrow is not a center at 6'1". She's not that type of drop defender. For Morrow defensively, she's best as this blitzing, making plays, causing havoc defensively type of player, which is valuable. There's not many better players at that I've seen in recent college basketball history. Her steal and block numbers are no joke. Awesome driver. The rebounding is plus. It's more just about the shooting and the value of this archetype. Just because if she went to Chicago, they're going to play her at the three, and that's where it could go badly. Playing her at the three, playing her out of position in the wrong role is what happens for a lot of prospects. A lot of prospects that flop, that are bust, whatever. Not saying Morrow's going to be a bust, but when that happens, a lot of times it's not just because of worth ethic. It's because of the system they're in, the context they're in. If Morrow went to like playing for Stephanie White, wherever Stephanie White's coaching, that's a good context defensively. If she's playing in Seattle or Las Vegas, that's a good situation because that's the defensive scheme that she is best in. And then also offensively, not asking her to be this wing. But also, when I'm making a board like this, which is just general, not even factoring in a specific team I'm making a board for, I have to factor that in a little bit because the context is just that important for a player of this archetype. And then to close out my top 12, another prospect in the 45 grade tier, Layla Filia, 6-foot wing for Texas, transfer from Michigan. Filia is what I would describe as a 3-and-D wing, but a little bit different than the Sonia Citron type 3-and-D wing. Citron is a much better finisher than Filia in the half court. Also, Filia is probably better defensively as far as like projecting out to like being a ball screen defender that can switch a little bit better. That's what I see with Filia a little bit more. But it is concerning that she's never made a pull-up three, not even one pull-up three in her college career. That's not a great sign for a prospect, not even to make one. So we'll see where she goes playing for Texas this season. For the rest of my board, I have one other prospect in my 45 grade tier, and that is JJ Quinterly out of West Virginia. Quinterly is like a 5'8" guard, more of like a combo off-ball guard than a point guard. Not many better on-ball defenders. She never stops moving. She racks up so many steals with her active hands, a good screen navigator and ball screens, good base to cut off drives. So for Quinterly, we're talking about someone that can like really defend, can make some spot up threes, is also like a solid finisher as well, can get downhill, finish, score at all three levels pretty much. It's more just about, can she be a good enough playmaker? Being 5'8" makes it a little bit tough when you aren't a point guard, a little bit on the smaller side for an off-ball guard, but still, Quinterly is a super fun prospect out of West Virginia, someone that could be an All-American this year. Then to move to the rest of my board, not going to dive deep into every one of these players. I've made prospect videos on many of these players, actually, like over like 5 players through the rest of this board. So if you're interested in that, a link will be made in the description. Also on the playlist on my channel, it's there if you want to really watch more in-depth videos on these specific prospects. But 14, Georgia Amoore out of Kentucky. The shooting, the off-ball movement, the passing ability, just smaller, which is why she is a 40 grade for me. 15, I have Charlize Ledger-Walker, transfer from Washington State, now at UCLA, point guard, awesome passer. The concerns is just like not the most amazing athlete. The defensive, really defensive, what she can do defensively. Can she be a more consistent shooter from 3? She was a more consistent shooter before last season, so banking in some small sample size progression there happening. Also at 16, Bree Hall out of South Carolina, wing that can really shoot the ball, defend, valuable archetype. At 17, AZ Fudd. She's at 17 just because of the ceiling piece. Fudd has the injuries, one. Also, the athleticism isn't all that great. Isn't the most aggressive downhill driver and finisher. Good cutter, but isn't going to create a bunch of rim attempts for herself. Also, doesn't take a ton of pull-up threes off the dribble. Can make pull-up twos, but it's more like second side type of stuff, attacking a closeout rather than pick and roll, creating a bunch of advantages as a driver. Then at number 18, international prospect playing for Guernica in Spain. She is from Germany. That is Annika Soltau, 6'4", big, I would say, power forward / center. The upside is significant with Soltau. She just hasn't played many pro games. This is her first season playing in the professional league, the number 1 tier A professional league in her career. She's played at Hoop Summit last year against the top seniors, rising freshmen in college basketball. It's one of the best players at that event in, last March-ish. So Soltau has the upside. Then at 19 is Cheyenne Sellers out of Maryland. Wing, combo guard-ish player. Super fun skill set. I just don't think she has a signature skill. That's my one concern with Shy Sellers. Then at number 20, someone you've probably never heard of in your life. That is Anastasia Kosu, playing in Russia. She's playing in Russia. The Russian league does not have many good players just because of the war, and then after the Brittany Griner situation happened, there's just not many WNBA caliber players in this league, but that's what makes it tough to evaluate Kosu, because there's not many super high level players. She played against Kayla Thornton and outplayed Kayla Thornton in that matchup as an 18-year-old. But for Kosu, she is this combo forward. She is an unbelievable athlete. Seriously, she is an Angel Reese level rebounding mismatch nightmare. She can grab rebounds around 3 different players. She plays like she is on a trampoline. I'm not even kidding there. She's so bouncy. The deceleration, the defensive versatility, the help rotations as well. She can make plays in passing lanes. She probably has a 6'4", 6'5" wingspan at 6'1". Kosu actually she was the MVP at the U16 European Championship at 14 years old. She also played U19s at 16 or 17 years old and played against the Canadian national team, their U19 team, who had Yvonne Ejim, they had Shide Wilson, they had Letitia Mihir. They had a bunch of players, I believe, on that team that are actual high major players. She's just missed out on the exposure because of Russia's ban from playing in FIBA events, which is unfortunate for Kosu, because I think she's someone that should be on WNBA radars And then for my 30 grade prospect tier, I have Janiah Fagan out of South Carolina, but also Michaela Timpson out of Florida State. Then Marine Dersus, who plays for Angers in France. Then at 24, Isaiah James out of NC State. 25, Lucy Olson, Villanova transfer, now at Iowa. 26, Roy Harmon at Texas. 27, Sydney Parrish, Indiana. 28, Maddie Westbeld, Notre Dame. 29, Sarah Andrews, Baylor. And then 30, Jill Spear, Tennessee. So there you go. That is my top 30 grades for prospects. I contribute to our draft coverage at The Next. If you're curious, we have in-depth breakdowns on all 30 of these players, a bunch of notes, strengths, improvement areas, wingspans, offensive roles, heights, ages, grades for all of these prospects. My grades are a little bit different than that just because that board is in a capsule of like all of our boards together, so it's like an aggregate. I'm higher on Malunga, I'm higher on Anissa Morrow, I'm lower on Raven Johnson, slightly lower on Charlize Ledger-Walker, but it's a good resource. Probably the best resource, I would say. I'm biased, but probably the best resource if you're looking for draft coverage in depth. Same with this channel covering the draft, is something that I really enjoy. I think it's so important. The draft is how you build a championship team. You look at a lot of different teams throughout history. Building through the draft is the most successful way to build a championship contender and have sustainable success because you need depth. Depth is so important in this league. Anyways, long video today. Subscribe for more WNBA coverage, draft coverage, college basketball. The season is almost here. Let me know in the comments below what you want to see more of. Subscribe, all of that fun stuff for the algorithm. Let me know your thoughts on this board as well. Anyways, I'll see y'all next time.